we got some questions. Here's a question I get a lot, and this one is from Philemon is his name, and he says, I hear negative things about Internet Explorer. Why is that? Is Firefox or Chrome better? All right, here's your chance, Dan, to
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Internet Explorer.
Chrome is typically lighter and usually faster. Of course, you got Internet Explorer 10 coming out. Things are coming out constantly. Firefox has a lot of add-ons. It's not necessarily faster, but usually Chrome and Firefox are more secure. Internet Explorer is just extremely cumbersome if you're doing any web development at all, because what looks great in Chrome, Firefox, Opera looks weird in Internet Explorer. So you have to create a whole new different styling sheet for Internet Explorer. Okay. And anything below 8, you should just upgrade your browser. If you're using Internet Explorer 6 or 7, upgrade it. Okay. Because you got a huge security holes in there. You're missing out on a lot of the new stylings and the way things look online. Okay. If you're below 9, 9 has the new stylings, 8 still doesn't, but if you're running Windows XP, you're stuck with 8. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay. I know from my experience with streamingchurch.tv, a lot of times people who are using the Windows Explorer tend to have issues with not being able to get to a site, or something's blocked, or there's an X, a red X somewhere in the left-hand corner they have to hit. And so we've had some issues. I mean, although we're hearing all these negative things, although I think still the majority of the people out there use Windows Explorer.
They do, yeah, because you're used to it. Right. It's a household product that comes with Windows. It's right there. People are just used to it.
Okay. What about Safari?
Safari's a good one. That's more Mac and iOS, right. But that one's a good browser too.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Okay. So you're saying that your advice from Fireproof Computer Services is go with something else. Go with Chrome. Would you prefer Chrome over Firefox?
I prefer Firefox. Okay. I like Chrome, but Chrome's still up and coming. So there's a few sites that you'll run into that Chrome just won't display.
Okay. All right.
But Firefox is heavier, but I've always liked Firefox.
And heavier, you mean it takes more memory? Or
it takes a little bit more resources.
Okay.
But nothing extenuating.
Okay. All right.
Or nothing exhaustive.
All right. Cool. All right, folks. If you got questions for Dan the Man here, type them in the chat here, or if you're watching this in some other way, some other platform, you can email us support@streamingchurch.tv. Let me go through some of these questions and see. We got people harassing us here.
Bob's got a good point too. Chrome is sandboxed. That's one thing that makes it more secure.
Okay. And sandbox means what?
What sandbox does is when something's running in a sandbox, it's only allowed to run in a little bit of assigned area for the whole entire system. So it can't, if you get a bug that comes in or an infection, it can't just go out to wherever it wants. It's like a kid, it's got to play in the sandbox, got to keep the toys and everything in the sandbox.
Okay.
So it keeps the rest of your yard clean.
All right, okay. And that's a good thing then.
It is.
All right. Okay. All right, moving on here with some questions here. We're so glad you're with us. Thanks for being here. We got about another 12 minutes or so to answer some questions. I'm going to take a quick look at my email here, just make sure we don't have anything. And let me move on here to some more questions. All right, my computer freezes when I watch videos sometimes. Why is that? It's from Chris.
First thing I look at is how hot it's getting. Do you have the proper ventilation? Because that's one of the number one things we see with videos freezing, computers, the whole thing freezing, the whole thing shutting down is thermal issues. So you want to make sure if it's a laptop, you want to kind of get it up off, set it on a chill pad, which will have fans in it that'll blow on it, or you can just get a little cookie cooler sheet and set it right down. But to get it up off the area so that it can breathe. And with a regular desktop, you want to make sure that it's got room to breathe, and you want to open it up and get a can of compressed air and blow that thing out every now and then, because you'd be surprised what kind of cat hair and dust or whatever can get into it, and plug it up real quick.
Okay, all right. So what's the temperature of the computer One of the things I would say too is, again, your processor, if it's getting bogged down a lot, that will cause your video to buffer or freeze, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So should you, how do you get your CPU to the level you want it to? I mean, if it's overworked, what do you do?
Well, one thing is, how much stuff do you have open? Especially if you're streaming video, do you have several programs or other applications that are open also?
Okay.
That's going to definitely have an effect, especially if you're running Illustrator or Photoshop or heavy programs.
A lot of resources going. Okay.
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Now, in this area of streaming, when people, the question was, I'm watching my church services and they freeze up. I'm going to address it too, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But if your internet connection isn't very healthy, if your network that you're on is running slow, then that's going to cause issues because you're getting bits. The way streaming works, and help me here, Mr. Computer Guy, you're getting chunks of information coming down a line, the packets of information. And so if your internet is slow at your house or wherever you're at, coffee shop, you're going to get freezing up. You're going to get pictures getting distorted, buffering, that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one thing, check your speed. Now on the other end, and a lot of churches that are streaming don't realize this, but they also need to make sure that their upload speed is healthy, wherever they're streaming from, and the bit rate that they're sending up the pipe. So on their encoder, like right now, we're streaming here, and we've got a pretty good connection, and so we're streaming at a pretty high level right now because of we're on the iPhone, the iPad. We've got to make some adjustments to do that. But if your church is not, if their upload speed isn't healthy, then a lot of the stuff that they're sending you isn't getting there, or it's getting bogged down. So again, a speed test is a healthy thing to do. A speed test, like if you go to streamingchurch.tv, if you're streaming with our company, under the resource menu of streamingchurch.tv, we have a speed test. You want to use our speed test. Don't use Quest or somebody else, because that's not going to give you an accurate reading for those of you streaming. All right, and again, you could do that even if you're trying to receive a signal. Do a speed test. See where you're at on that. See what the quality of service is at. Okay, got some questions here. Bob, check your version of Flash Player and make sure your internet connection is higher. That's good advice, Bob. Obviously. And Don, I don't cough fur balls. I cough other things up, but not fur balls. Tony, do you recommend the software for temperature control? Do you recommend a software to keep the temperature control?
Yeah, that is a good question. Temperature control, if you're talking about controlling it, again, you want it to be able to breathe, but to monitor the temperature, there's a good one, I think it's called Speezy. It's from the same makers who make CCleaner. And it's a free software that'll tell you everything that your computer is able to monitor. So such as your motherboard, hard drive, your video card. If the motherboard has temperature monitor sensors on it, which most of them do, it will display it in either Celsius or Fahrenheit for you.
Okay.
And the video card will always be hotter than everything else normally. That's just kind of a normal what's going to happen.
Okay. All right. So something again. What was the name of that? Do you remember?
I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure it's called Speecy.
Okay. So that gives you an idea. But I mean, again, that's not going to cool it down.
Right. That's just going to monitor it.
It's just going to tell
you
what it is. And it's up to you to cool it down. Okay. Heidi's got a question. I understand that a lot of streaming will, or even does, at this time require HTML5, and therefore you need the most current browsers. Do you agree? Are you up on that?
For HTML5, yes, you need the current browsers. You don't have to stream in HTML5, but Flash, everything from Flash is kind of going away for the most part because HTML5 came out to replace it.
Right. Okay.
So yes, you need to HTML5. You need HTML5 browsers, which are the newer ones: Internet Explorer 9, Chrome, Firefox.
Okay. Well, they'll have that on there. And a lot of these phones now. I had a question the other day. It's not here. But a lot of the Androids are having a Jelly Bean, I believe it is called, Jelly Bean operating system in the Androids. And for us at Streaming Church TV, that means we're going to make some modifications in our platform so that if you have an Android, and it's on the Jelly Bean deal. It's going to have to be it's got an HTML5 deal, and so we are going to make some modifications for that. And that kind of goes along with the question I had. Another question here, and that is sometimes my church's live stream, I can see it on my Android, other times not. Any ideas as to why it's inconsistent? That's from Robert. You feel free to jump in there if you have an answer for that, Dan. My answer is a lot of times your provider, your service carrier, is going to have a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I just now got an iPhone, which I posted on Facebook and got a lot of people supporting me. But I used to have a phone that was Android, and when I first got it, I could see our services and everything, and then for some reason it just disappeared. I could not see any streaming services on my Android phone. I had an older phone now. So different Androids, honestly, some of them, depending on their carrier, their provider, and then the other issue you've got to consider too is, what are you getting it from? Are you on 3G? Are you on a wireless network with your Android? So I don't have a real good answer for you because, I've looked at something and my partner Steve, he pulls out his HTC and he can get it on his Android. I couldn't get it on mine. Again, it has something to do with the different group of Androids that's out there, I guess. I mean, the operating systems are a little different on some of them.
Maybe a software update kind of broke something.
Well, and that can be the case too. So we stream. I mean, our company streams the Android as well as iPhone, and you have to make settings on your encoder. If those of you who are streaming from the church, you have an encoder that makes that happen. You've got to make some setting changes for people to see it on the iPhone. But I was just watching the service the other day, and my iPhone looked great. But again, that's iPhone, that's iOS, that's not Android, different system there. So
yeah, because Flash is not supported on iOS.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but again, you can make it work. If you're a church or a ministry or business streaming, you can make it work by making the settings, which we've covered before. If you have questions about that, feel free to email me, support@streamingchurch.tv. We're running out of time here. Just a couple minutes more here, Dan. We're with Dan Pataconi from Fireproof Computer Services here. Am I getting all these questions here, Dan? Are you seeing some of these? Anything that
I think you're doing pretty good. Okay. Back for Tony, it's Speccy, SPECCY, and it's made by Piriform. And again, they're the same company who makes Sea Cleaner. They actually make a defraggler, which is a defragging product. And all these programs that they make are free. They have free versions. They have pro versions. Free versions work great.
Okay. So if you want to know your computer's temperature, instead of having to put a thermometer in its USB port, you thought I was going to say something else.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Neither was I. You can just download that software. Okay. Alrighty, guys, we're about out of time here. Let me plug Dan here one more time. Dan Pataconi is with Fireproof Computer Services. Your website, Dan, is?
FireproofPC.com.
FireproofPC.com. No matter where you're at, anywhere in the world, he can help you. And not only does he help you with computer issues and problems, and he's helped us a lot here at a live church where I'm at right now, and also for Streaming Church TV, but he also does some website work too. So if you your ministry, business, or church needs a website or needs some work on a website, he's the man to call. And what's a good email address?
You can email me at info@fireproofpc.com.
info@fireproofpc.com. All right, awesome. Okay, we are just about out of time here. Got some links here. I'm going to wrap things up. Dan, thanks for coming by and spending a little bit of time here. Sure, appreciate it.
It's been good times.
You've been a good friend to us here and helped us. And folks, I really appreciate you spending some time with us. We didn't get maybe to all the questions here, so we'll try to answer some of those via email tomorrow. But again, if we can help you in any way,